Okay, so hey everyone. So we're up to Act 2, Scene 4. And basically, this is the scene where Romeo has just come back from talking to Friar Lawrence, who's agreed to marry them. And now he runs into his friends, Mercutio and Benvolio, in the street. And he's currently waiting for Juliet to send her messenger to him for them to finish planning the details of their very quick marriage. So at this point, Romeo and Mercutio and Benvolio have a little bit of banter and wordplay because all of a sudden Romeo's in much better spirits and they still have no idea why. And that's when the nurse shows up. And the nurse comes as a messenger from Juliet, which means that Juliet has told the nurse about her love affair with Romeo and Juliet. So now we're up to 4 people that know that Romeo and Juliet are in love and are planning at least to get married. Now, the only other big problem that we find out about right now is that because Romeo never went home last night, he has no idea that Tybalt sent a challenge to his father's house. Now, what that means is Tybalt has challenged Romeo to a duel. Super old school, but it basically means that one of them could potentially die in this duel. And that's because Romeo crashed the Capulet party and he promised he would get revenge for it.
Enter Benvolio and Mercutio.
Where the devil should this Romeo be? Came he not home tonight?
Not to his father's. I spoke with his man.
Ah, that same pale, hard-hearted wench, that Rosaline, torments him so that he will sure run mad.
So again, we see here that they think still that he is in love with Rosaline. So they have absolutely no idea about Juliet.
Tybalt, the kinsman of old Capulet, hath sent a letter to his father's house.
A challenge, on my life.
Romeo will answer it.
Any man that can write may answer a letter.
Nay, he will answer the letter's master how he dares, being dared.
So they're talking about this challenge that Tybalt sent to Mercutio, and Benvolio is saying that Romeo will answer the challenge, that he will fight Tybalt. And Mercutio is kind of playing on that word a little bit about answering a letter, right? Anybody can write back to it.
Alas, poor Romeo, he is already dead, stabbed with a white wench's black eye, shot through the ear with a love song, the very pin of his heart cleft with the blind bow-boy's butt shaft. And is he a man to encounter Tybalt?
So Mercutio is saying that Romeo's already dead, meaning Romeo's already not the man that they know because of how lovesick he is, right? He says that he's been stabbed through the ear with a love song. The pin of his heart has been hit by Cupid's arrow. So he's basically not really alive anyway. And then Mercutio says, and anyway, is he good enough to encounter Tybalt? Is he good enough to fight Tybalt? And they're going to explain why that might not be the case.
Why, what is Tybalt?
More than a prince of cats, I can tell you. Oh, he's the courageous captain of compliments. He fights as you sing prick song, keeps time, distance, and proportion. Rests me his minim rest. 1, 2, and the third in your bosom. The very butcher of a silk button. A duelist. A duelist. A gentleman of the very first house. Of the first and second cause. Ah, the immortal Passado. The Punto Reverso. The Hay.
Okay, so Mercutio says that he basically is a really good fighter. He says that he's prince of cats, meaning he's so quick on his feet. Picture a cat that would jump or fall from distances and how quick and agile they are as they move around. Mercutio is basically just like that. He's a duelist, a gentleman of the very first house, meaning he's one of the finest fighters around. And that is why he might not be a good match for Romeo, or Romeo rather might not be a good match for him.
The what?
The pox of such antic, lisping, affected fantasticos. These new tuners of accents. By Jesu, a very good blade. A very tall man. A very good whore. Why, is not this a lamentable thing, grandsire, that we should be thus afflicted with these strange flies, these fashion-mongers, these pardonnez-mois, who stand so much on the new form that they cannot sit at ease on the old bench? Oh, their bonds, their bonds!
Here comes Romeo! Here comes Romeo!
Without his roe, like a dried herring. O flesh, flesh, how art thou fishified! Now is he for the numbers that Petrarch flowed in. Laura to his lady was but a kitchen wench. Marry, she had a better love to berhyme her. Dido, a dowdy. Cleopatra, a gypsy. Helen and Hero, Hildings and harlots. Thisbe, a grey eye or so. But not to the purpose.
Enter Romeo.
Signor Romeo, bonjour! There is a French salutation to your French slop. You gave us the counterfeit fairly last night.
Okay, so Mercutio again is kind of making fun of Romeo for not being like himself, right? He says that he's Ro without his, he's Romeo without his Ro, meaning he's just me-o, or oh me, kind of like the sighs that they'd hear him saying. And then when he enters, he says, bonjour, you gave us there's French salutation to your French slop. Basically he's saying, you ditched us last night. And he's kind of pissed off at him for leaving him.
Good morrow to you both. What counterfeit did I give you?
The slip, sir, the slip. Can you not conceive?
Pardon, good Mercutio. My business was great, and in such a case as mine, a man may strain courtesy.
That's as much to say, such a case as yours constrains a man to bow in the hams.
Meaning to courtesy.
Thou hast most kindly hit it.
A most courteous exposition.
Nay, I am the very pink of courtesy.
Pink for flower.
Right.
Why then, is my pump well flowered?
Well said. Follow me this jest now, till thou hast worn out thy pump, that when the single soul of it is worn, the jest may remain, after the wearing, soul singular.
Oh, single-souled jest, solely singular for the singleness.
Come between us, good Benvolio, my wits faint.
Swits and spurs, or I'll cry a match.
Nay, if thy wits run the wild goose chase, I have done. For thou hast more of the wild goose in one of thy wits than, I am sure, I have in my whole 5. Was I with you there for the goose?
Thou wast never with me for anything, when thou wast not there for the goose.
I will bite thee by the ear for that jest.
Nay, good goose, bite not.
Thy wit is a very bitter sweeting. It is a most sharp sauce.
And is it not, then, well served into a sweet goose?
Oh, here's a wit of Cheveril that stretches from an inch narrow to an ell broad.
I will stretch it out for that word broad, which added to the goose proves thee far and wide a broad goose.
Okay, so this whole bit, I get you probably have no idea what's happening. It's a whole bunch of puns. So they're kind of poking fun at each other. They're trying they're having this battle of the wits, this banter back and forth to see who can play on the words the best. So we have this one with goose, which basically Romeo's calling Mercutio a fool, and they're playing on that for a little bit. There's also the whole single-souled just thing. Again, that playing on the word soul and singly and everything else. If you didn't get the jokes, it's okay. They're a little bit better explained if you read the left-hand side of the book. But ultimately what they show us is that Romeo is in much better spirits than he was the last time these two met. And that's what Mercutio is about to realize, that Romeo seems much better than he did.
Why, is this not better now than groaning for love? Now art thou sociable. Now art thou Romeo. Now art thou what thou art, by art as well as by nature. For this drivelling love is like a great natural that runs lolling up and down to hide his bauble in a hole.
Stop there, stop there.
Thou desirest me to stop in my tail against the hair.
Thou wouldst else have made thy tail large.
Oh, thou art deceived. I would have made it short, for I was come to the whole depth of my tail, and meant indeed to occupy the argument no longer.
Here's goodly gear.
Enter Nurse and Peter.
A sail, a sail, a sail!
Two, a shirt and a smock.
Peter,
Anon.
my fan, Peter.
Good Peter, to hide her face, for her fan's the fairer face.
Okay, so they kind of been playing around, and now that joking is still continuing, even though the nurse is here. And Mercutio's a little rude to the nurse, right? He says, The nurse asks for her fan, and Mercutio basically says, oh, please God, give it to her, because looking at that fan would be a lot better than looking at the face. So it'd be one of those fans, that women would use to fan their face or cover their face. And Mercutio is basically calling the nurse ugly.